Hi guys, today I want to talk about the 5 of 5 chord, which is one of those things that when I first heard it I was like, what the hell is that all about? So before we can talk about this, we need to talk about the dominant 7th chord. And a dominant 7th chord is a major chord with a minor 7 on top. So how does that work? Well, we probably know how to make a major chord. Let's just use, I don't know, C major. So we'll use a C. And then that's the first of our chord, right? And then we have a third, which is going to be an E, and then we have our fifth, which is going to be a G. Now, when I say first and third and fifth, you might like wonder why. I mean, this seems like the third note in the chord, but when I'm referencing these numbers, we're talking about scale degrees. So if we have a scale, like here, we have the scale of A minor. We have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then back to A. We can give all of these a number. So A would be 1, B would be 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's where we're getting those numbers. This is the first scale degree, the third, and the fifth. So this is the start of a dominant chord, which is a major triad, but then we need to add a minor 7th on top of that, and a minor 7th is a whole step down from the root. So if we take the root, the C, and we go a whole step down, we end up there at B flat. So let's add a B flat here. So this would be a dominant 7th chord, and it sounds like this. Let's make that a bit longer. Now you can hear already just by playing this chord that it has a lot of tension, and that is because this chord needs to resolve. And to resolve that, what we do is we find the note where this chord is the fifth of. And I know that sounds a little bit confusing, but if we think back to those scale degrees, we take a look at this chord, which is a C chord essentially. We want to ask ourselves the question, where is the C the fifth of? So there's another chord where C is the fifth of, and that chord happens to be F. So if we have an F, it could be a minor or a major F, we have a C as the fifth. And that is where this chord wants to resolve to. It wants to go to this F chord. So let's listen to that. And then we sort of resolve that tension that we created. So let's go with another example. Let's try, for example, making a dominant E chord. So we start with the note E, then we make a major triad. So we're gonna have a G sharp in there, and we're gonna have a B in there. And then we'll take the root, we'll go down a whole step, which is the D, and we'll add that as well. So this is the dominant E, dominant 7th chord, which has that same tension, of course. And then we want to find where E is the fifth of, which happens to be A. Because A, let's go with a major chord, A, C sharp, E. Now, usually we find these dominant 7th chords on the 5th scale degree. So for this example, let's stick with the key of A, and we're going to be in A minor, so that's this scale. And we're gonna build our dominant 7th chord on the 5th scale degree. So that would be the E again in that case, like that. So we want to resolve that back to an A. So let's actually start with an A chord right here, an A minor, and then we'll go to that 5 chord. And then we'll go back to an A chord. Very strong resolution that has. So that's nice. Now we've learned what a 5 chord is. This would be the 5 chord, this would be the 1 chord, and we've learned how to build a dominant 7th chord, we call this, or a 5/7, it's often abbreviated. So we know how to build that, but the purpose of this video was to explain you 5 of 5 chords. So a 5 of 5 chord is when we use another 5/7 chord to lead into this chord. So this chord goes to there, but we can add another chord that goes to this 5 chord. And to do that, we just find the fifth of this chord again. So we have the first, we have the third, and we have the fifth. So if we want to build a 5 of 5 chord, we're going to build a dominant 7th chord on, in this case, the B. So that would be this chord. a B major with a 7th added. And now we have a 1 chord. Then we have a 5 of 5 chord, which, as the name implies, resolves to a 5 chord. And then we go back to a 1 chord. And we can use this to modulate to different keys as well. And we can also use it to just spice up our progression. You can see that we use, like the key of A minor, it only has the white notes, but here we are using this D sharp and this F sharp here. So it can sound kind of exotic because of that. Now, of course, our voice leading is pretty terrible here. So let's invert some things so that this sounds a little bit more natural and pretty, I guess. Right, so that is a 5 of 5. I just wanted to very quickly show you that idea. I have one other progression that uses that here, and this is more of a functional progression, meaning that it tells more of a story than the other progression. So here we are in C major. We can sort of tell that because our first chord is a C major chord. Then here we go to a 5 chord, which is inverted right now, but this is basically a G dominant 7th chord. So it has a G, a B, a D, and an F, and that goes back to the 1 chord again. So this is already a very strong movement. Right, that should sound quite familiar. This is a very common thing to do. You start with the 1, then you take it all the way to 5, and then you go back to 1. And then here we get a 6th chord, which is an A minor. And from that we go into the 5 of 5 chord, which is a D dominant 7th, which then goes to the G. And that's because D is the 5th of G. And then we go back to a 1 again. And let's listen to that whole progression. Right, so you hear some interesting movement here, and we could now, because we have this strong movement here, we don't have to go back to a major chord. We could go back to a minor chord as well, and then we've modulated from C major to C minor here. Which gives a more dramatic feeling. Now, we don't have to use the 5 of 5 chord per se. We can use a 5 of any chord. So, for example, let's say we are in C major, which we are. We could take any other chord and modulate to the note where that is the 5th of. So let's say we have this C major chord here, and we're adding a minor 7 to make this a dominant chord. We could then use that to go to the F in this case, because C is the 5th of F. I hope by now this is starting to make a little bit more sense. So we'll create an F chord out of this, and an F chord consists of course, an F, and then an A if we want to go major, and then a C. Now we could make this a minor F as well, that doesn't really matter. So this is a pretty nice modulation there. Let's try to see what happens if we make that minor. So what we could do is first have a major F, and then we could have a dominant F, which is going to have an E flat in there, which then wants to move to a B flat, because F again is the 5th of B flat. So then we would get this movement. So all of that works. So this is what makes 5/7 chords very useful. We can use them to sort of point to another key, to modulate to another key quite easily. Now there are ways to get this to sound a lot smoother. You can do some more clever voice leading. You could do something like that. There's a lot of ways to make this sound more natural, but that is the basic idea of this. So I hope you get some new ideas out of that. Once again, these are topics to research. It's like with music theory, you're not supposed to watch a 5-minute video and then know everything. Like now you should research this some more, get some practice with it, try some different things. It's an interesting topic to learn more about. So with that out of the way, thank you for watching, and please don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and I'll see you guys in the next video.